Please be advised that tonight there is a content warning for this particular show, in that there is a strong possibility that there will be anomalous bits involved in the case, potential for things like gore or violence or very scary entities. We have discussed with the cast beforehand any lines of veils that they might have with regards to taking part, and none of those things will be appearing in tonight's show. So if you are feeling like a sensitive viewer, if any of that comes up, feel free to step away for a moment or just take a little breather. We find ourselves this day in the SCP Foundation's Site 1111. The camera pans into a meeting room where a number of people have been assembled. And in this meeting room as well, you can see that there is a view screen, and there is an old, relatively old, television that has also been wheeled into the room, and a VHS cassette player. As the three of our non-site director personnel are gathered here in the room, potentially a little bit curious as to why they might all be involved in the same place again, our site director, Asher James, enters into the room. You can see that the site director is carrying a few manila folders, and also seems to be carrying a VHS cassette tape in his hands.
Center is taking off his suit jacket before placing the folders onto the table. I would say that today is a good evening, but the fact that you all are gathered here should show you that it is not. I have requested your assistance because we have reasons to believe that this, and he'll point to the video cassette tape, is a very unique anomaly. We received word that a Mr. Davids from Iowa began posting recordings of this tape on the internet. We have arranged for a number of special teams to ensure that Mr. Davids does not remember what he's seen, and to scrub what evidence of the file from the internet. However, we were intending to send a group of D classes to this city, this town, this Knott's Point, when something very unique occurred. The tape showed that our entire team would be wiped out. Note that I said would, as the individuals were standing in the same room as I at the time. And then, as the tape concluded, these individuals began to disappear. We did additional background information. It turns out this Knott's Point is not on any map of the area, not owned by us, naturally. And the tape shows very specific coordinates. I don't like to repeat myself, but is there anyone that has any questions about the information as I have presented it to you?
Is anyone hungry?
No.
And you see Marion just slowly put his charcuterie board back in his cartoon pocket space.
It has been determined that due to the unique situation, that we will all be going in to look at this in person. I expect all of you, and he looks especially at both Worm and the D class, to be on your best behavior.
Question.
Yes.
What if Dr. Bright isn't on their best behavior?
Dr. Bright has the trust of the SCP Foundation and will be treated as such until he proves himself unable to be relied upon, and then he will be dealt with accordingly.
I thought I could get away with it for like 5 seconds, but hey.
One does not escape their fate.
Ooh, spooky.
And ST, would it be possible to play the videotape for them so they can see it as well? Or would I know that it would not show the same thing again?
It is indeed possible to play the videotape for them, and the view screen that is in the room has actually been set up as well. You know that instances of the once it was discovered that the tape does not show the same events once it has been played over and over. It had become habit of the Foundation to actually set up a recording device to actually record what had been displayed by the videotape as it was going. So you can show the tape itself now, which will show new things, or you can show previous footage if you would like.
You will show the footage of the attack of the previous group.
Excellent. The site director presses a button on a remote control that is on the table, and you can see that the view screen sort of comes to light, and you witness a team comprised of about 5 different D-class personnel. They appear to be traveling into some kind of long hallway. It is difficult to really discern what this structure where they are inside might actually be, in that the design of it is akin to something that you might find in older hospital wards, but you might also find in, you know, older schools or older high schools or such. It's just the structure and design of it. You can tell that the building itself looks to be relatively poorly maintained inside. There some of the windows that the D-class personnel pass by occasionally are quite, you know, rusted on the iron sections, and there is a point in the recording of what had been on the tape where you see that one of the D-class personnel, as they are walking past a doorway, there is a brief reddish glow that is in the doorway, and as the D-class personnel turns their head to look into the doorway, you see that their skin actually begins to slowly peel off outwards. Their skin sloughing off at the same time, and with an absolute look of horror on their face as they are looking towards the other D-class personnel. You can see that very slowly the muscles appear to start pulling off in layers as well, until there is just the standing skeleton there of this D-class personnel with the pile of now viscera and skin and clothes that are around it. The skeleton standing in place. There is a further interpretation of, well, not interpretation, playing of the recording where you see a number of these D-class personnel are attempting to flee this building as such, and there are points where some of them seem to fall through holes in the floor as well, that you can see a brief flash of red light and screams echoing, until eventually, one by one, in several different scenarios, you come to a point where it seems where it is the last D-class personnel, which is huddling in a corner, breathing heavily. Their face seems to have splatters of blood on. Their eyes are wide, and they're breathing quite heavily. And then the camera sort of tilts to the side, seems to lie on the ground, and you can hear footsteps. And then there is the sound of almost like a click, and followed by static.
To clarify, this is footage shown from the view screen, not the tape, or is this the tape?
This was shown from the view screen. It had been recorded from the tape, which has been classified as SCP-8742.
We will be leaving in about 10 minutes. So if you have anything to square away with any power you believe in, I would suggest you do so soon.
My worms. They must feed. And as he says this, worms kind of like go in and out of his mouth and eyes and kind of through his skin.
Well, I can make some bread that'll clear that right up.
You don't eat pastries. You promised me to feed my worms in my cooperation.
I expect you both to be on your best behavior. You don't have time for people going off on their own. Once inside, anything not especially designated as an ally, you can do as you please with.
He just kind of sits back in acknowledgement. His worms kind of start going all creepy and crawly all over his face again.
That's so cool. That's the wildest training video I've ever seen.
Alright. We will have a car ready for you in 10 minutes. Meet me out front. Do not be late. The director will leave.
D-Class 666 is gonna call after him. I guess you won't give me time to call my mom then, right?
I won't answer that question.
This is assuming your mother even remembers she has a daughter.
Oof.
The Foundation is responsible for many, many things.
I mean, D-Class 666 is in there for a reason. Who's to say Mom still even exists?
This is true. This is true. This is also true. So in preparation for your journey out to Knott's Point from Site 1111, is there anything that anyone feels that they would like to bring with or have with them prepared for what might take place?
Well, you know Marion's... Oh, go ahead, Reed.
The director will change it to his combat clothing and have his combat knife and 2 handguns, including his trusty revolver, with him.
Excellent.
Marion's just, he thinks he's going on another extended little baking trip. So he's packing all his essentials, his sugars, his baking flours, his bread flours, making sure he's properly equipped, and a few small pastries that he can fit in his little bag, and checking his uniform.
I don't think N needs anything. He just has his little hoodie looking super creepy. Those worms that constantly kind of just flow through his body.
They probably aren't gonna let D-Class have any weapons, right?
Flashlight.
You have a flashlight at your disposal. Heck. Well, as promised, within 10 minutes, the the four of you have a vehicle that has been supplied to take you to Knott's Point. The drive itself from Site 1111 is going to take you about 2.5 hours as far as things go. You had started out in the evening. It was around roughly 6 or 6:30 p.m. when you had left, and the drive up has been relatively peaceful as far as things go. Perhaps there's been some communication in the car, probably mostly from Marion asking if people would like some road snacks, I imagine.
Yeah, you'd be right.
Yeah, and as you are driving into the designated coordinates, you eventually do see that there is a signboard which says now entering Knott's Point, and it has one of those little things which is underneath their population. It is not a lot of people. It's honestly in maybe, it's definitely under 10,000 for sure. There are not a lot of people that seem to be living in this village, small town. The night itself is actually relatively foggy up here, as this part of Minnesota is where you're getting closer to Canada. The the weather has not been particularly great. The past few days has been kind of dark and cloudy as far as things go, and it has also been, you see that it is relatively foggy out on the roads tonight. Director James, would you kindly go ahead and make a drive roll for me, please? First roll of our game. So you are looking to roll those 4 dice and add up the pluses and minuses, and then if you have any rankings in drive, you can add that number to your result.
So I have 3 not neutral and 1 bad.
So that counts as a -1. And do you have any modifiers to drive?
I have stubbornness. I don't know if that counts. Other than that, no, I don't. No.
All right. You are driving into Knott's Point, and the fog is actually getting quite thick. The headlights of the Foundation van that you are in are piercing the fog well enough, but before you are aware of it, you actually see very quickly, within the span of a couple of seconds, that there appears to be a figure, a woman in the road, and the van sort of slams into the woman, and she sort of goes tumbling out as you apply the brakes. And the van itself seems to also be making a little bit of a lurching sound now, as if the engine is struggling.
He will stop the vehicle. D-Class, go and check on the woman while I look at the car. Marion, go with them.
What, you won't let me take Wormy Boy with me?
And of course not.
Fine,
I would
Wormy
like,
Boy.
ST, I would like to send my worms out regardless. In a secret way, where hopefully no one can see, and just kind of get them crawling into that lady's mouth.
All right.
If I can.
So what you can do for me then, you're trying to do this surreptitiously.
Yeah.
All right. So you can roll stealth actually for me. So roll your d4s. Let's see if anyone notices, basically.
My stealth is a +2. How do I do this
Okay,
again?
so first you're going to roll your 4d4s, and you're going to add up the pluses and minuses. So if you're using regular d6s, depends on how you would like to operate it, but you can say that 1 and 6 could be positive, 3 and 4 could be neutral, so blank faces essentially, and 2 and 5 could be negatives.
Okay. I was just gonna do 1 and 2 as negative.
Sure,
3,
that
4
works.
is neutral, and then 5, 6 positive.
Yeah, that works too.
And I have 2 positives, 1 neutral, and 1 negative.
All right, so that adds up to a +1. So your stealth is also a +2, you said?
Yeah, correct.
All right, so the total would be 3, and 3 is a good result. So yes, as some of your worms begin to slither unnoticed as the van door opens, and our first person to sort of exit from the driver's side would be our site director, as you begin to make your way towards the front of the van to have a look, and you can see that it does indeed appear to be quite heavily dented in the front, and there is a bit of smoke that is coming through out of the engine block as well. The site that awaits our D-Class personnel, D-Class 666. What you see when you exit the vehicle and you are making your way towards the figure that seems to have been hit on the ground, you take a few steps, and the person that is lying down on the ground appears to be a woman, and she looks to be dressed in an outfit from a diner. It's you could tell this would be like some kind of waitress staffing uniform, and you are taking a few steps, and you can see that even though she was hit with a heavy impact, there appears to be no sign of damage on her particularly, and she begins to actually, after laying there for a moment, she sort of pushes herself up and begins to stand up and begins to look around, quite confused, and she sees Holly coming towards her, and we will get to those nightmare secretions in a moment here. As she stands up, she sort of begins making her way towards you, Holly, and you can see that she has this look of sort of fear and confusion on her face, and she says, "Oh, what happened, please? I'm so disoriented. Oh, I feel like..." And then her body, as she has reached you, begins to sort of violently start shaking, and your worms, Mr. Ann, have actually made their way up this woman's leg, and are beginning to actually sort of like crawl into her ears there. What is your intention with that?
I would like to consume her.
Okay, so these worms are...
Can I tell if she's convulsing because of the worms or because she's got something weird going on?
So a couple of things are happening at the same time. The stealth roll was good for the worms to go unnoticed. The woman appears to be convulsing in front of you from something else, as you actually see that she starts shaking, and her skin itself actually appears to be starting to sort of bulge in places and sort of change a little bit of shape, and the skin actually starts to bubble a little bit, and several smaller eyes and mouths start to appear on her form and her face as her skin is beginning to shift and change, and she's beginning to sort of scream, and she starts to sort of claw at her face, and the mass of bones inside her body are moving in a very odd fashion, and there is a wet popping sound as her body is twisting and changing and deforming and essentially melting in a pile there. So I need something from two of you. From our D-class personnel, I would like you to roll your will, and from N, I would also like you to roll your will, as your worms are trying to consume something which seems to be affected by something else.
I got a 7 on that, including the will.
It's gonna be a 6.
That is absolutely fantastic for both of you. So the moment that your worms are actually beginning to want to start to take a hold of this woman's mind and to start to produce the nightmares which can allow them to feed and consume her, there is an odd sensation or psychic feedback that you are feeling from them, that something feels very foreign and very disconnected from what you are and from what they are, even with them being as strange and multi-dimensional as they are. And you instinctually shut off the connection to those worms that have made their way onto this woman, and you do not suffer any harm. The same cannot be said of worms that have been severed from the hive. Holly, what you have seen in front of you is quite horrific. And under normal circumstances, if you weren't living under constant threat of at any moment somebody could die and suddenly your body is inhabited by Dr. Bright and you're no longer yourself anymore, maybe you aren't too fazed by things anymore, as this woman's body has become this formless, grotesque mess that plops to the floor. The waitress outfit that she is wearing is still there on the ground, but this puddle of what was once a human is not moving anymore.
Gnarly. Hey, Marion,
Yeah.
you got any like Ziploc baggies?
Well, I have bread bags. Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine. Can I get like 2?
Sure. And Marion will roll out the bags to D-Class 666, aka Holly.
D-Class 666 is gonna put one of the bags around their hand and then just start scooping this mass into the other bag, and is gonna go over to Director Asher.
As you are looking at the remains of this engine, Site Director Asher James, you can tell that this car is not going to be, well, this van's not going to be functional for a while. You're probably going to have to call in to get them to send you another vehicle. And D-Class 666 comes walking up to you with a very wet paper bread bag.
Here she is.
explain what exactly happened in the 5 minutes between exiting the vehicle and instructing you to check on this person?
She melted. She wasn't hurt from what I could tell, but then, weird shit happened and she melted. So here she is.
It appears we will not be traveling in the vehicle for some time, so we will be continuing on foot. Please let Marion know while I get the SCP out of the car. And he will go around over to the front door and open it. You are allowed to step foot outside. You are to stay within my eyesight at all times. Do you understand, Worm?
I do. And he kind of glides out. He doesn't really move, but the worms kind of like travel underneath, and he kind of just glides out of the car.
It's actually
Also,
really cool.
quick question: is there any remains on the ground?
There are some.
Yeah, I didn't
yes.
scope all of them up.
The braid bags are
Alright.
not that large.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. But good to ask. So he's gonna send out his worms, and just the secretion's gonna consume whatever is there that is edible. Worms gotta eat.
This is true. Now that you're able to do this, you can definitely tell that whatever force had been in contact with this person is no longer there. Also, at this point in time, I would like everyone to please make me a notice roll.
That one.
Does my recipes for disaster count toward that, or do I have to invoke that?
How would you like to invoke it? You are entirely able to use your stunts if you would like to. Just describe what happens.
I mean, it's kind of unfair if I don't know exactly what you have planned for us. But I'd say in lieu of everything, like, Mary is being pretty observant as to what's going on, because uncharacteristically, D class just asking for bread bags. Like, that's unusual. That's haven't even baked anything yet. Wonder what's
It's cooking. So the recipes for disaster, this effect. Why don't you go ahead and describe this effect to us? If you are wanting to use that, you're entirely able to.
I'm probably going to butcher this, but it is recipes for disaster is a stunt that boosts Marion's notice and investigation. Due to his background as a baker, looking at recipes and adjusting them on the fly, he's gotten into the habit of being able to study things and point out inconsistencies or something unusual. So
it's the perfect time to actually use that stunt there. Yes. So just mark off somewhere that you've used that once in this scene. You are able to use your stunts twice in every scene. And I will always tell you when we have entered a new scene that you can refresh your stunts there. All right. So yes, you can get a +2 to that notice roll.
got it. And that's 4d6 and add up your totals. Okay.
Yes, indeed. So for you, it'll actually be 46 and then add up the totals +4 because you invoked your stunt.
Okay. Yeah, because resources. Where's notice? Yeah, notice is +2 by default. Okay, so I've got 2 positives and 2 negatives, which makes it.
So it's a flat 0. But with your stunt and your notice, it still brings you up to a great notice roll.
Yeah, and I have investigation average and notice is fair.
Yeah. How about the rest of our team?
I got a 2.
2? 4?
4.
-2, and then I have a notice of a +1, so I believe that's a total of -1.
-1, yes. All right. So it makes sense that odd occurrences have just happened with this woman, and you are needing to walk to the rest of this town, wherever things may be. So I would say that, Director Asher, your eyes are more focused at this point in time on the SCP in your midst. However, for the rest of you, especially we'll start with you, and once your worms are actually devouring what is left of this woman, you also see that in the remains of her outfit that she was wearing, her waitress uniform, there is actually a name tag that is on there. And you can see that apparently this woman was named Sandra.
Not Sandra.
And for our D-Class and Marion Mungley, what you can see is that there are definitely a few lights in the distance that you can make out on this road through some of the fog, where you can pick out some very, very distant lights. It looks as if like the fog is clearer at some points, and it is not so difficult. Especially you, Marion, you can actually, you think that you make out, I would say probably around 20 minutes walk from you, judging your distance here, that there is definitely a building shape that you're seeing occasionally through the fog.
It's just a building, and all I can detect is the outline of a building.
Yes, because it is kind of foggy out. So both yourself and our D-Class personnel, and also and once you've finished digesting your meal, because that note stroll was good, you can also make out sort of the contours of that building around 20, maybe 30 minutes walk from here.
Would we be able to deduce that this is a large building, small building?
4 is a very good roll, so you can tell that it is more of, it's not super large. It's kind of like average sized. It's I'm trying to think, like maybe gas station building size, like a smallish gas station size, you know, not huge, not tiny.
Okay, basic service gas station. I'm with you.
Mm.
And Marion's gonna bring that up to the director and go, "Hey, boss, I think if we walk 20 minutes, we'll be arriving at a gas station or something. See a building in the distance."
Good. Let's go. Once we get there, you and the D-Class will go inside, see if you can get us in directions and an estimated time on foot to the rest of the town. I will keep an eye on our friend here.
You got it, boss. I'm always down to network. Maybe they'll be interested in my next line of pastries.
And the director starts walking.
All right. As you're all making your way into the town, you can begin to see that, yes, in some of the areas, the fog is not as thick and as ever present. And within about, I would say, roughly 10 minutes, pardon me, within roughly 10 minutes or so, you are able to start making out the same sort of shape of that building, which some of you had seen from a bit further away, and it is coming more into focus. And the road itself actually does seem to be sloping into town, and you can start to make out that there are other buildings in the distance, which are not as shrouded in fog and everything. And your sort of first estimation that this might be like a gas station or something does not appear completely incorrect. It does not super correct. There is indeed once you get a little bit closer, you can see sort of like the outlines of pumps and stuff like that. But the building itself seems to be attached to what might be a small diner. But at this point, everyone can make another notice roll for me, please.
Yeah, this one will be standard.
You are about 10 or so minutes walk now from actually being able to get into that building.
Another 4.
Another 4.
That is a -2.
Gonna be a 3 for me.
It is the exact same roll as last time. This game hates me.
Guys, we can get away with anything. Our director's rolling like shit.
All right. So, our D-class personnel and our wonderful SCP, you're walking through this mist where you are seeing some lights in some of these buildings a little bit further off, and you're being able to see that this gas station, maybe like a combo of another building, are getting closer. But that is not sort of what really grabs your attention, especially N. You are starting to hear noises, and it sounds like soft skittering at first, and it starts to become a little bit louder and becomes more of a rapid kind of thudding. It is not too much longer before our D-class personnel actually begins to hear that same sound as well. And unfortunately for Marion or Director James, because both of you had negatives, correct? So here is how we are going to work these with negatives. So you have the option of, if you would like, and if you think of some way that you can use one of your aspects, that you can pay me one of your fate points and you can potentially do a reroll, or you can choose to take a +2 to that roll of what you've already rolled to turn a failure into a success, or you can just leave it where it is and see what happens.
I'll take I'll use a fate point and go for a reroll.
All right, which of your aspects do you think would apply in this situation?
I'm going for my second use of recipes for disaster.
All right, so you want to invoke one of your stunts here? Okay, all right, okay. The aspects are.
Oh, your aspects. Okay.
Yeah. So what was your total roll again?
The my high concept or my title?
No, the roll that you had made. What number did you get?
I got a -3.
A -3. All right. So if you use this, if you use the stunt, it would still put you at -1, which is still a failure. So, but if you want to talk about one of your aspects, you could potentially use that to use a fate point for a reroll. But just explain how it would help you.
What about mise en place then?
Okay.
Everything in its place.
Everything in its place.
Yeah, because considering his origin story when he found that house and his little backstory, he definitely got a habit for taking in an austere scene, or he knows when things are looking pretty unusual.
All right. Yeah, I will totally accept that. So you just mark that you now are down to a refresh of 2 for your fate points. Absolutely. And yeah, so you can re-roll those dice.
Okay.
How about yourself, Director James?
Would like to do the same, invoking the ends are all that matter. This is a failed assignment and he cannot afford to fail, so whatever price must be paid to succeed shall be paid.
Excellent.
That should, then with that, I believe I was at -1, so it should be flat neutral now.
Yes, so a flat neutral, if you're just taking a +2 to make it a flat neutral, that's fine. So that is essentially you get the option to succeed with a cost.
Oh, if it's +2, then I should have a +1.
Oh yeah, mine is yeah, +1. So you're fine. You're not at a flat neutral. You are at a +1. All right, so you succeed this. Yes. How about that re-roll there, Marion?
That is 2 positives, a neutral, and a negative. And a negative. So I'll be sitting at 1 +1, I believe.
1. All right, very good. Plus whatever your notice is, right? Which is a +2.
Yep,
3.
+2, so that's 3.
All right, which is great. All right, which is very good. So all of you actually do begin to notice these sounds. As it started out as sort of like a background, kind of like odd off-kilter skittering sort of sound. And then it's getting louder, and the skittering sort of motion becomes a bit more of a thumping sort of motion. As out of the mists there come bounding some very odd looking creatures. They do seem to be like 4-legged as they go, you know, as normal dogs and lions and tigers would be. However, the shape of these things is all backwards angles and sort of very spindly, almost like, what's the word for it? Spindly sort of legs, but the skin seems to be bulging in places with like orange coloration and potentially pustules and such, and their faces on these beings actually do seem to be slightly human-like. So you can imagine an odd kind of a very disturbing human spider thing that seems to be made out of about to explode pustules running towards the 4 of you. And with now that everyone has got a decent sort of like notice going there, you can make out at this point in time that there seem to be 6 of them that appear to be incoming.
With that 3, do they seem to be innately hostile?
You would judge that they are running towards you with intent.
Ooh, okay. Sneaky.
I'd like to remove both guns from the holster and pull that lady from Resident Evil, whose name escapes me, and just start firing at everything.
Jill. Going in like Jill.
Just firing everything.
All right, excellent.
666 is just gonna keep walking forward, ready to just go at him with the flashlight.
All right, okay.
Exactly. Just whack him good.
Marion does not know what to do with himself.
All right. So, Marion, you're unsure of what to do with these creatures. How about N?
I think he looks at Marion and asks, "Would you like to live?" And he offers one of his worms.
That raises the question: does Marion trust N enough to take it?
Does he? I can't tell you that.
They don't have backstory history per se.
Mm.
This is true.
Yeah, but Marion's friendly. He'll see that someone that he walked into the field with is lending him a helping hand. So he goes, yeah, sure. You don't pay me enough for this, man.
And I would like my worms to find out what his deepest, darkest fears are and make them a reality.
Very nice, very nice. All right, so I would like Marion, you can roll first a will saving throw there, a will roll, and you can also roll a will roll there, and Director, I would like you to make a shoot roll, please. And as these creatures do seem to be coming towards you and loping along in this odd, disjointed fashion, some of the heads off to the side, some of the heads maybe upside down, but it's very disturbing the way that they have to move. And for 666, you're moving along and trying to keep going ahead towards maybe where the buildings are, and you have your flashlight in your hand, and out of the fog, which is a bit thicker to your right, one of these things does actually jump and try to lunge at you. So you had prepared your flashlight in advance. You can make a fight roll for me, please.
Okay. It's going to be a 5.
A 5. All right. Interesting.
You're muted.
Thank you. All right, going to be a 5. Excellent. So, you are able to hit this flashlight in such a way that the creature actually does take a hefty hit in the face, and it doesn't go reeling off and doesn't go skittering off, as it also rolled a 5, so it is sort of balanced out. But for this point in time, you have at least stopped this one, and it'll start taking you action soon. How about those will rolls that we got there? Let's start with N.
I got a 6.
A 6. All right. And Marion?
I believe that balances out to a 2.
You got a 2? All right. So you are feeling this sort of goo coming off of this worm, and you are also beginning to feel the thoughts coming to the surface of your mind. What are your deepest, darkest fears?
Getting fired and absolutely shamed and disgraced before everyone, getting blacklisted, losing all of his sanitation certifications, basically losing his future. The crippling thoughts of any young person trying to establish themselves in the capitalist society.
Is there anything more creature-based?
Creature-based? Mice.
Mice.
Yeah, they get into all the pastries, they contaminate the food.
That's a valid point.
His fear is just the director.
All right, so N, you are sifting through some of these thoughts and such, and like, I can't fucking make use out of flying papers. That's not gonna hurt anybody. But then mice.
Yeah, mice work perfectly. If I could make those into a reality, like huge, giant versions, vicious looking, maybe like giant red eyes and huge teeth, that'd be perfect.
Excellent. You rolled really well there, so I'm going to say you are able to summon 3 of these enormous, horrific looking mice. Marion, this is fucking freaking you out because there are giant ass mice and these spindly, weird human-ish spider things which are running towards you right now. This is not the best day in the world. It's unsanitary.
The mice, I would like to send them towards the spindly humans.
Excellent. All right, very good. So, director, your shoot roll there.
This is the only thing I'm actually allowed to do. I have 5 on this.
Fantastic. All right. So you are definitely able to hit one of the ones which seems to be at this point in time bounding closer and closer and closer to Marion, and you hit it and it sort of like stumbles away and falls down for a bit. It is not dead, but it has taken some damage as well. And with your mice there, we're gonna have you roll. You're still controlling them. with your will. So this is going to be a will roll. So we'll take one will roll for. Are you sending them all at different targets, all at one target?
How many targets again are there?
There were 6 that could be seen.
6. Yeah, I would send them at each. Yeah, one per, I guess, 3.
Okay. All right. So you can make. Would you like to make 3 separate rolls or one roll for all 3 of them?
I'll just do one roll for all 3. I actually just rolled a 5. 5 minus 1. My will is 4, so it helps, I think.
Very nice. All right. So yeah, these mice are also running and jumping into some of these creatures, and there is a ripping and tearing sound as the creatures are also sort of fighting back there. And we'll go to another round of combat here. Now, a question for me as the the keeper here. Is everyone attempting to move and battle, or be stationary and battle?
Right there. Well, everyone get to the building.
Well, if Marion hears that, he is going to be hauling it to the building. Like, he is horrified.
D-Class is gonna ignore him for now and just focus on this spider creature that's closest to them.
All right. So the spider creature that is closest to you, is 666. It is actually rights itself after taking this heavy whack in the face there, and it sort of stands up and looms over you and turns its head to the side, and its mouth like elongates a heck of a lot, like, you know, a snake unlatching its jaw, and it's just a mass of rows of shark-like teeth inside, and is going to attempt to bite you there. You can make. How would you like to handle this? Would you like to attempt to hit it or get out of its way?
I'm just gonna try to whack it again.
All right, so make another fight roll.
I would like to use one of my stunts.
Okay.
The Amulet of Arche to get a +2 to the fight.
Very good. Very good.
That's gonna be a 3.
All right. So you are attempting to keep using this very well made, you know, hefty foundation flashlight. It's not, you know, it's one of those ones which is like made out of like good grade steel and everything, and it has that high powered flash beam on it and everything, but you know, it's still just a flashlight. So you are trying to hit this thing on the side of the head, and its mouth sort of bites down and lashes into your body, and you can feel these teeth inside you as it rips off a good chunk of your flesh there. You can mark that you have received 2 physical stress.
Okay.
All right. After that, you do manage to sort of like shove it off a little bit, but you are bleeding pretty heavily from these scrapes, and you're certain that there might be some of this thing's teeth left in you, as what happens sometimes with shark teeth when they bite things. How is everyone going to progress for the next part of this?
If Marion isn't in the building yet, he's going to keep going.
All right. So, all of you with the giant mice busy fighting off certain things here, and Director James firing off bullets. I want everyone to make an athletics roll for me, just to see how well this goes.
Oh, my sweet baby Jesus.
Okay, Marion. Okay, Marion. Okay, Marion.
Flat 0.
Okay.
That is +3 for Marion.
Very nice.
Three positives and a neutral.
Got a
A
2.
negative. It's a -1.
A negative
hell.
1.
This,
Mm.
this
The
game
super soul.
hates me.
This is
It
not
hates
the
me.
director's day.
It hates me. Truly hates me.
Are there any stunts that you have that could add to this, or any anything you could do to reroll?
Does, and not unless this is a disarm situation, anything of that nature, then.
I would say that it can definitely help you mitigate some damage that you might take.
Well, then in that case, I have a backup weapon, which is whenever someone hits you with a disarm situation, they get a boost instead, as it represents me switching weapons. So I don't know how that would apply.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I can say that as you were running and one of these creatures is just about to take a big chunk out of you, you distract it by potentially throwing up one of your guns in the air and just switching to the other side gun, and you fire into its face and manage to distract it enough that you catch the other gun and you continue running, and it gives you just the edge you need to continue running. And all of you are running, and these creatures, it seems as if there are more of them that are appearing, and more, and you have now made it to where this the outside of the gas station is, and it appears that there's some kind of diner that's attached to it, and from the outside it looks as if there's a light on in there, but you can't see anyone inside. But the moment you cross into the door and it has that ding as the bell on the door rings, and turning around, perhaps the last one with the wounds is our D-Class 666, pushing the door shut, even though it is a swing door, pushing it shut faster. You all hear the sounds of people. And looking around you, you see that the diner seems to be full of patrons. People talking to each other, quietly enjoying their meals, having cups of coffee, and sharing stories about their day. As you turn around, Holly, and all of you are looking around the inside of this diner, both yourself and In, due to his worms having consumed what remained, recognize the waitress behind the counter, as she, with a bright smile on her face, says to everyone, "Well, hi, what can I get you? You're new in town. We don't get lots of visitors in Knott's Point. Come on in, it's cold out there."
That's really good, Aries. That's really good. What?
666 is doing their best to just hide the gaping bite wound that's on their side. And staying towards the back. I'm just trying to... Actually, while they're doing that, could they see if any other people in this place look similar to each other? Or...
Sure. You can make an investigate roll.
Okay. That's gonna be dependent on how much the dice like me.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna make this one investigate for sure.
That's gonna be a 1.
A 1. A 1 is still a success. And so far, by what you can judge from what you're seeing, there's no one else that seems familiar or similar to each other in the signer. You can't say that you've seen anyone else's face in here before besides the team that you came with and the woman behind the counter who has her her waitress uniform on and the name Sandra on. Well, don't just stand there. Don't you all want some coffee or something? It's really cold.
Well, thank you. A place to sit would be more than enough.
Oh, sure. Just come with me. We have a booth over there that's open. And she grabs actually a couple of menus and sort of leads you to because she's going to talk about the wound in a second. So my head's are crossed wires. She leads you to the booth, and then she does see that Holly has got a bite in them, and she says, "Oh, that looks real bad. What happened there?"
Nasty stray dog. You know, can't try to help every mutt.
You know, I tell my dad the same thing, but it seems like every winter he wants to bring in more and more, and I tell him they're gonna get fleas all over the place, they're gonna bite you, you can't help them all. And
I
as
like to send my worms.
where would you like to send the worms?
To Sandra.
Okay.
I love it.
I'm curious.
Are you being at all tactical about it or discreet?
Discreet? Yeah, why not? We'll go a little stealthy with it.
Okay, make a stealth roll. As all of you take your seats in the booth, and she does drop the menus on there. She says, "You know, we have some real good cherry pie here. You know, it was baked this morning, and a little bit of whipped cream on there. You'll die."
You know, Sandra, I think we could all just start with a cup of coffee for now. I think that would be good.
Oh, I won't be 2 moments, and she walks off to go collect coffee.
Yeah, the second she's gone, 666 is grabbing Director Asher's shirt and pulling him closer. That's the woman we hit. The one who melted.
Thank you. We will have to discuss why you felt that pulling on my clothing was necessary.
Oh,
I
I'm
would
sorry.
strongly-
Did you want me to announce it to the whole diner? Because I can do that. I could get us even more fucked.
I would strongly recommend none of you eat anything, as the woman declared that you would die upon doing so.
Spider people. And giant mice.
Calm yourself. Worm, behave yourself while we're here, at least for the moment.
Speaking of the worm's behavior, what was that stealth roll?
3.
3.
Good or bad?
3. All right. 3 is good. A question for everyone is, how at this point in time do you feel you would be in terms of extra observantness or any stress that you might have when do you feel that you might want to make an active notice roll?
I'd say Marion's being pretty observant at this point because he's hyper observant after what he's witnessed.
Okay.
Yeah, I think after noticing the second Sandra, 666 is looking for anything weird.
Okay.
Rector is sitting so that there is nothing behind him, and is definitely watching people while reloading his weapons.
You're just reloading in the middle of the time.
All right. Good. So I would say then you can all make a notice roll as well. So your worms are getting off, and they are being quite stealthy, and they are creeping their way towards Sandra and just beginning to. How many are you sending? Is my question.
I think I'll just send like 20. They're like this big though, so like
Yeah.
It's gonna say just
like
20.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So
well, there's quite a bit that are just within me and itself.
Yes. And so they are beginning to, as stealthily as possible, perhaps in different directions, making their way around towards where Sandra is. And they are sort of beginning to make contact with, her skin as they begin to travel onto her body. What were those notice rolls?
2.
2.
0.
0. Okay.
-1.
-1.
I got 4.
Excellent. So, first thing, none of you notice the worms. Second thing, with the 2 and the 4, while you are busy talking and such, what you both notice is that yes, people are talking, and people seem to generally be eating, and the sound of cutlery sort of hitting on to the plates, etc., is for some reason very noticeable to both Holly and Anne. It is almost as if like that sound, that physical sound of the cutlery and people eating is getting louder in your mind, in your presence. And specifically with N, what you notice once your worms have fully made contact with Holly is that from their perspective on like her head or her shoulder where she is now, they can actually see a little bit into one of the other booths where there are 2 elderly men in sort of deerstalker. One of them is wearing sort of like one of those deerstalker hats. Another one is sort of like just wearing a bit of plaid and such, that are busy eating. And it does seem as if on their table they have just a collection of plates, a lot of plates. And you see that Sandra, with the movement of the worms, she is actually bringing more plates of pie to this table. And as you get closer, you can see that the lower half of these men's bodies seemed to be sort of turned into red masses of flesh that are fused together and are sort of linking and touching at the bottom. So these, and you can see that this bizarre transformation seems to be continuing up both of their torsos, but they are continuing to eat more of this pie that she has dropped off for them. Is there anything you'd like to do with the worms once they get there?
I would like, if I may, to send out more and to start to do nightmare secretion and just consume all of these people. Because what I was told is that I could eat everybody that I wanted to.
That's not considered an ally.
And it doesn't look like these are people to me. So I feel like in my mind that this is okay to consume them all. But also, I would like to see what's in their mind, to see what's going on there.
Interesting. All right, cool. So Sandra eventually comes back and brings you some coffee and starts pouring some coffee for you and says, "Oh, are you all going to be staying a long time here? You know, we don't get a lot of visitors." And she sort of cocks her
Should
hair a little
stay
bit.
Here won't be long.
Do you hear that? It's like a weird buzzing sound.
No, I don't. Look over towards Worm.
There are things Marion could do. He's just not in the right state of mind.
The woman who was identified as Sandra is really sort of like pushing on her ear a little bit, and like it's real uncomfortable there. Hold on just a moment. And she sort of cocks her head to the side. She begins like bashing on her head, and you all notice that out of her ears start falling worm after worm after worm, and they're just falling on the table, and they don't seem to be affecting her, by the way. She's just bashing them out on the table, and now all of you are also starting to hear this sound of this cutlery and this eating getting louder and louder, as it seems that there's also a smell that starts seeming to sort of filter into the air. It's like a sickly sweet kind of like almost vomity kind of smell in a sense. It's definitely like sort of stale. Everyone can make a notice roll, and I want you to roll your ability roll for the worms there. So that's your will, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
This is my first good notice roll for the entire game.
Nice.
We're all doing that notice roll, or just
Everyone, yeah.
yeah, okay.
4, by the way.
4? Nice.
I got 2 on the notice roll,
Mhm.
and then I got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the will roll.
That is fantastic. All right.
It's just
Good
this
for you.
1, 6, and 3 5s.
Nice.
Like, oh, okay.
Very
I got a
nice.
total of neutral on the will roll. Literally balanced out to 0.
Will should be notice.
I mean, notice.
Okay.
Sorry, my bad.
All right.
Notice.
And
I got a
you.
1 on my notice.
All right. Very good. So, those of you who had 1s and higher, you actually do notice, because of the sound of the plates and the eating, it's like a twisted, creepy, gross mockery of the, you know, the scene in Spirited Away where her parents are just eating too much and becoming pigs, except this is the other people in the diner. Their bodies are beginning to merge and transform and turn into these red masses of flesh as things start dripping onto the counters, and your worms are actually, especially Director James, you notice that the worm has been sent out and is also actively, at the same time as whatever has happened to these people in the diner is happening, they are also being absorbed and consumed by a lot of worms, just a lot of them. And Sandra just has this look on her face and this smile, and she's like, "Are you sure you don't want any pie?" And
I
you,
would like to shoot Sandra in the face.
all right, go for it. Go for it. I'm also going to need Holly to please make a... What do I want for you? Ah, yes. Please make a will roll for me.
Okay. It's gonna be a 3.
A 3. Okay.
I would like to use my called shot stunt for a shot to the head, and that is 5 successes.
She's just finished asking if you're sure you don't want some more pie, and her head explodes. Her body stays upright, and you all sort of look to the ground where you see that this mass of red flesh that everyone seems to be joining into and becoming, while at the same time at certain points being consumed by the worms, has also reached her and her body and her feet, and she's turning into this pillar of fleshy meatness. Holly, you have succeeded on that will roll, but you can feel inside your body from where the bite happened. You can feel things moving. They're sharp, they're hurting you, and they're moving deeper. And from the minds of whatever these things are, you're getting, oddly, a similar vibe to you, to your worms, in the sense of whatever these things are, it feels as if it has a burning desire to consume and to change, but it is also filled with hatred for life.
It's just like me.
Yeah, it's you can tell they're not the worm, but it is weird that it is a very similar thought process.
Is there a source?
Let's see if you can pin a source down. Make a lore roll.
I don't even think I have that. Oh, wait, I do.
Marion's freaking out again, by the way. Like, the director calmed him down just a little bit, but seeing this, yeah, he's flipping out again.
I will point out that the tendrils of this red fleshy mass stuff are really starting to encompass a lot of the floor in the room here.
How do aspects work again?
All right, so an aspect, you can decide to if there's a way that you can feel that it applies to the situation, you can justify using that aspect to give me a fate point for a reroll or a +2 to your roll.
Well, I don't know how exactly this would work for another reroll, but I wanted to use the Legion consumes all aspect to reroll, because I got a -1 on that lore roll. And I'm imagining, because my worms are kind of eating all of this mass, that maybe it can kind of like figure out where this, like, the source of this like creature or being is, maybe.
Excellent. That's definitely a good idea. So are you going to go aim for the reroll?
Yes, I would like to do that.
Okay.
Because -1. Sounds bad.
Is this set up like kind of a stereotypical diner? Like, are there big windows by the booths and everything?
Yes.
Okay. Then I think 666 is just gonna take that flashlight and try to smash out a window.
That is easy enough to do. It's just a window. But let's just see if you damage yourself in the doing of it. So just roll a fight roll for it there.
The reroll was a +4, by the way.
Nice. Yes, so you are aware of what this stuff is. It is another anomalous entity slash disease. It is a highly contagious disease, which is known as, amongst the Foundation, as SCP-610, which is the flesh that hates. It infects and overruns and mutates human bodies, and it has really been difficult to contain in many places around the world, and it spreads through physical contact with an infected individual. But you can feel the threads of this disease consciousness with that 4. You can feel them further into the town. You can feel the thread of origination further into the town. You would be able to trace it.
I'd like to tell that to Asher. I just turned on, I guess, and I know where they are.
I got a 1 on that fight roll.
And I'll point towards that direction.
The 1 is good.
Do as you please.
All right, so Holly is breaking the window and the glass shatters as the continuous back and forth of the worms growing in number and then possibly in turn being consumed by the disease, and then in turn consuming some of this disease, is roiling in the background. Holly is broken through the window, and they are doing what?
Jumping out of it. They gone.
How about the rest of everyone, as masses of red moving flesh and tendrils are starting to be very close to everyone's bodies right now? I'm going to actually need everyone to make me an athletics roll, please, except for Holly, as they have jumped out the window.
Baron will follow suit if he succeeds. That's a 0 for me.
A 3.
2 for me.
A 2 for you. All right, a 0 for Marion. Now, Marion, a 0 means that I can offer you a deal. I can offer you the chance to succeed with a cost. If you accept this cost, of which you will have to find out what it is afterwards, I will give you a fate point. Or you can fail.
I'll succeed with the cost.
All right,
Keep the
excellent.
adventure going.
Excellent. So, all of you manage to follow suit in Holly's footsteps and sort of jump out this window. But Marion, in your sort of like haste and fear, you sort of misjudge how you're getting out of this window, and you almost like tumble out of this window more than anything else, but part of your leg catches on a piece of the broken glass window pane and leaves a big cut down it. So you take 1 point of physical stress.
That sounds about right.
And
There's also leaving.
all right. So all of you are out the window outside now, and you can feel the direction of this pulsing thread of origination, and it is more into the town. You can just barely make out what appears to be a steeple of some kind.
I would like to start heading that way, kind of just gliding, of course, with the worms crawling.
Can Marion, and well, I guess you can't invoke aspects, you can only invoke stunts. Can Marion use leavening agents to... Well, yeah, sure. Well, yeah, it would be leavening agent to pull out a pastry that can at least staunch the bleeding in the huge gash.
Yes.
Under the aspect of getting high on his own supply.
Yes, indeed. I want you to you do this completely. That's fine. That is your There's your stunt, is your aspect, but also just you, Marion, roll me 4 dice and just tell me what the result is. Don't add anything to it.
Dice don't fail me now.
You
gotta be joking.
With cake.
That's another 0. That's 2 negatives and 2 positives.
So, it's staunching the bleeding, yes. And that's all good, that's fine. That acts as intended. But you're feeling very, very relaxed. Like super relaxed. Very, very relaxed. Nothing's really a bother right now. Everything's really good. And you currently have the aspect of, it is a temporary aspect for a while, of being high on your own supply. And so for the duration of when this aspect is activated, you have a -2 to all rolls.
That's fair.
Because you're just unconcerned by it. Like, yeah, I'll run, okay. But you're not really putting your heart into it. And as you are all outside, the night air is cool against your bodies, and you are, I'm assuming, making your way towards where the steeple is.
Except for Director James is keeping his eye on the D-Class, because now that he understands what he's dealing with, he understands what's going on.
Very good. All right. And you'll begin making your way towards this section of the town, and you see other buildings and such when you go on, and there do appear to be lights on in some of these other buildings and homes, like a little post office and such. And occasionally in the distance you hear some more of those odd skittering noises, and you eventually, through the fog, make out that the steeple is connected what appears to be quite an old, very large church.
You sure this is the place?
I'm positive. This is where they are. Whatever they are.
And ST, do I know the containment procedures for this SCP?
As a site director, I would say that yes, you do. But in the case of this, just because it is a what I call it, potentially tense situation, let's just see how much you remember. So make a lore roll.
3 3 successes.
All right. Yes, you are aware of the containment procedures. You'll give me a second here. Ah, yes, that's the one I'm looking for. Thank you. You are aware of the containment procedures, but the thing is that this isn't necessarily a procedure. You are usually aware that sites such as this are walled off, and any of these mutated organisms can be shot. It is much preferable to do so from a distance so that people do not get infected. Usually anything that is touched by these things are incinerated and terminated. So it's not so much a containment procedure as it is wall this place off and burn it, burn it, burn it.
Right. Look for anything around here that can be used to barricade the entrance. Wood, sheet metal, vehicles, anything like that. Move quickly.
You got it, boss man.
All right, so everyone can make themselves an investigation check if you'd like to.
This is gonna be fun.
Can I do notice instead?
Yes, actually, you can do a notice check. It'll give you different information, but you can do a notice check.
On an investigate, that's gonna be 2 for me.
Okay.
2 for notice.
2 for investigate, 2 for notice. Okay.
Oh wait, no, I did it wrong. That's gonna be 4 for investigate.
Excellent. So,
-2 total.
all right. I think you're muted, D'Artagnan.
A 3 for investigate. Sorry.
Okay. Between the three of you, yes, you are able to definitely find various different portions of sheet metal. There are things around that you can find which will definitely barricade some sort of entrance. Now, my question just to our director here is, are you wanting them to barricade it from the outside or go inside, barricade it inside?
If I understand, whatever the origin of this is inside the building, correct?
Yes, that's the feeling that is coming from your ACP colleague.
And then he would be instructing people to make it so that people can no longer go inside that building.
All right. Okay. So you guys begin stacking things like crates and, you know, any metal objects you find lying around. You find heavy things and begin moving there. And with your notice roll, director, there is something that you do notice. As your D-class personnel friend is busy stacking crates and things against the doors of this church, you notice that out of their back there appears to be about 4 growing spikes that seem to be bony in nature.
D-class in the face.
You're gonna
that is rude.
You're gonna shoot the D-class in the face. This is your prerogative. D-class personnel 666.
Yep.
Are you wanting to react to that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
And what am I gonna roll to avoid that?
So, director, you're gonna roll a shoot roll for me, please. And our D-class personnel here You can roll. What shall we make this?
Could I make an argument that I can use physique to just take it like a champ?
Yeah, you can certainly try, sure. I was gonna say physique or athletics if you wanted to try dodge, but if you want to just take it in the face like a champ, yeah, you can roll physique.
I'm gonna do physique.
Wow.
All right.
They strong.
Physique is my +4.
Yeah, you gotta use it when you've got it. So yeah.
They crazy strong.
That's gonna be a 4. Yeah.
A 4.
Yep.
It's 5.
5. All right.
I would like to argue that I could use one of my aspects to get a +2. My formula 666. I feel like, honestly, the Z class has probably been expecting this for a little bit with the attitude that Asher has towards them. So they've expected to get shot at or beat up. So this is kind of just like, okay, everything's coming to a head now. All right, let's do this.
All right. I will allow it.
I would like to do the same thing with the ends are all that matters, because he understands that he cannot let this SCP free, and this person is very clearly infected.
All right. Okay. I'll accept.
Just want to state, as a player, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
As a site director, it makes perfect sense. This is your job. Yeah, I will say that I accept both of that from both of you. The margin still stays the same, I believe. Yeah, the margin still stays the same. So you take an additional point of physical stress. How many boxes do you have total?
3.
3. Yeah, the amulet around your neck is still there, but currently you are not there. D'Artagnan, yes. I can't really open that window right now, but yes. So what does happen is that as Holly Robin's body slumps to the floor, those spikes that were growing out of their back have not stopped growing. And the sounds that start to occur is a ripping, shredding kind of sound as their body is evacuated by whatever is crawling out here, which seems to be a very large and sort of like multi-limbed skeletal bony protrusion kind of, I don't know what to call it, like centipedal like thing, which seems to be crawling out and skittering towards things. The amulet, which is Dr. Bright's amulet, is still on the corpse of your D-Class personnel. And this creature that has just popped out is going to attempt to attack you. But first, I need everyone to make a notice roll for me.
I'm sorry.
I mean, at the very least, Holly's final thought was, thank God I didn't die as Dr. Bright.
I died
At least
as
I
myself.
died as me.
Positives? I got a 1.
A 1?
3
Okay.
total.
0 for
Miraculously.
me.
All right. So
How's Mary getting 3?
So, Director Asher, you are focused on this creature that is just erupted from the skin of Holly, and it is lunging towards you, and with that notice roll, you are able to sort of move out of its way as it is still getting its newborn mutant feet. How is our Baker Thaumaturge reacting to all of this, is my question.
I mean, he definitely notices, but like you said, he's just going like, I mean, it is what it is, man. Like, maybe I should eat something.
Yeah, so something else that Marion does notice is that there appear to be like a couple of worms which have crawled their way up into the director's back, and they seem to be making their way up to his ears. Oh, yeah.
Hey, director, if Marion's nearby to him.
You are.
Investigator. Okay. You got worms crawling in you, man.
Marion, this sort of centipede-like bony entity is actually going to shoot out a bony appendage and kind of try to stab you with it. You can make a athletics roll to get out of the way if you'd like, unless there's something else you'd like to do. Ian, is there anything that you want to do with the worm that is currently getting very close to the director's ear?
Yeah, I would like to do the nightmare secretion. Find out what his deepest, darkest fears are.
All right, so roll your roll that power there, roll the will, and director, you can also make a will roll.
That totals out to a -1 for the athletics check.
Oof. How many boxes do you have for physical stress?
Oh, this will be my last one.
A spike hits right through your body and you are lifted up, and the surroundings of your body actually start to liquefy and be melted onto the skeletal protrusion as you, still alive and screaming, feel yourself being liquefied and sucked into this creature, which now has a redder mass on its body composed out of the deceased Marion Mungley. 5. And what was your role there, D'Artagnan?
It's a 5 as well.
It's a 5 as well. All right. So, Director Asher,
can I
you
make a request?
Yes, you can.
Can I make a request? So if I understand the way this ability works, it takes the thing and creates it in reality, correct?
Yeah.
So that Asher understanding this would focus his mind on an image of Cain, just larger, and would not instruct him, but basically plan that that creation would be created, because ultimately the ends are all that matter in that situation.
Cain is the one that does not die. Is Abel the one?
The fighting one.
Abel. All right. So you see Abel. I forget his SCP number now, but he manifests and is large and is beginning to, in a rage-fueled frenzy, beginning to attack absolutely everything. And Director James, you know that you are not going to be able to hold out against the fury of this monster and Abel at the same time. How would you like to go out?
There is anything in the area that would create large explosions. Based on what he understands, fire is effective at generally keeping everything from advancing past where it is, at least for the moment. So he's focusing, like if there's like a gas station, cars, things like that, he just starts firing cold shots at everything.
You are able to do so, and there is like a pickup truck that is not too far away, and you are able to start firing at that and trying to, you know, get the gas tank to sort of like ignite or something in a very movie-like fashion. Are you getting into this truck and you're going to drive it into the church while it's on fire? Is this your goal, or you're going to let it explode around you?
He just let everything explode, and he will give the SCP the instruction to consume everything.
Excellent. Excellent. So as
Already was planning on it.
as all of this is taking place and Director Asher is meeting his final glorious moments in, you begin to hear the sound of several large helicopters in the area. And from these helicopters, dozens of ropes are descending. And trooper after trooper after trooper of MTF soldiers are descending. And for a moment, you're a bit confused, but then you feel a dart pierce your neck. And you begin to lose consciousness. The camera pans out to another facility where we see our friend, if we can call him our friend, SCP-7269-1, designated N, who is also known as the host for the worm. He seems to be sitting across the table from somebody who is interviewing him. As you sort of come to consciousness, you see an unfamiliar man across the way from you. And he says, SCP-7269. You were on an operation with Director Asher James. I understand that things did not go well. Would you describe to us the events that took place, please?
We arrived in a van. As we were driving, we hit into another person, Sandra, I believe her name was. She had boils and mouths coming out of her. My worms consumed her before anything drastic could happen, as she melted in before us. As we moved further into the town, spindly human spider creatures came towards us. I enacted my worms again to fight them off as we found a diner. Inside the diner, there were patrons that seemed unfazed of what was happening when we learned that they were a part of a mass of flesh that was fueled with hatred. We escaped barely, but the D-class personnel was injured, and so was, I believe, Marion is his name, the thaumaturge. He was injured as well. We made our way towards the source of this fuel, or this mass of flesh. And as we were trying to contain it, the D-class personnel was shot by the site director and turned into another abomination that attacked us and killed the baker. He was turned into a part of that mass I used my worms to create the director's nightmare, which was Cain, I believe, and it what was it, Abel?
Abel.
It destroyed as much as it could, and then your wonderful people surrounded me and took me in.
During the process, there has been one of those voice recorders which is on the table as well, and the man has been taking down notes as well. There is a pane of double-sided glass behind him, which obviously you cannot see through, but you hear on a loudspeaker. Excellent. Apply the amnestics. Begin the procedure again. The man looks up at you, straightens his collar, and clicks a pen. And you find yourself disoriented completely. And he says to you, Dr. Merriweather, I have the files for you on SCP-8742, and he hands you a manila folder. Are you ready to meet your team?
Yes, I am. Show me the way.
Excellent. And as the camera pans out, we're going to end our one-shot for this evening. Thank you all. Happy Halloween. And we hope that your night was spooky and enjoyable.
And hopefully you don't turn into a skeleton centipede monster too.
Yikes.
Indeed, indeed. All right. Goodbye, everybody.